To join us on our journey and meet a lot of startup founders, press the subscribe button, and to make sure you get regular updates, press the bell icon and never miss a video from High on Startup.
So welcome to High on Startup, and this time we have Mr. Apoorv with us. Now this person came up with a startup of himself, and personally I'll tell you one thing, this one is the most different startup I've ever got a chance to know about. Now Startup Safari is something you need to check because you don't know what entrepreneurs do despite working and how they're getting all their fresh and brilliant ideas. Perhaps from this man who sits just right next to me, and you're going to have a lot of intel today. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very good. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much. And my question to you is, how did you, first of all, I think we should tell the viewers what the idea of Startup Safari is.
Okay, the Startup Safari essentially came out of the process of working with a lot of entrepreneurs, and where we started realizing that a lot of entrepreneurs don't actually get to travel because they're so focused on their idea that they get boxed into their situations. We thought we need to find a way to give them a platform to travel, to learn from different countries, learn from different entrepreneurs around the world, and then bring back that learning to their idea and also connect different entrepreneurs around the world.
That sounds like a very nice plan, brilliant, perfect. I don't know what to say because I went through your website and I'd request you to go too. They have so many people who are joining them and learning from them. But my question is that, did you work for a corporate earlier, or like did you just start up with it? What's the story behind it?
So I think everyone's purpose or everyone's story is connected to their purpose, and mine was discontentment with the education system. I studied in Delhi University. I thought I went to a really good college, but when I graduated I felt like I didn't learn much. I was questioning, how would I take this learning to anywhere? I think so that's the best advice I got from my dad, was you need to go and travel and see. And luckily I started working with an NGO, and then through that I got a chance to traveling, and that led to understanding that there's more to education beyond the classroom. So that is the link to why Startup Safari happened. And to your question of why have I worked with a corporate ever? No, I haven't. From the beginning, it's been this unhappiness about education, how we can change it, and what education is. And so it's been 6 years of designing programs, it's been 6 years of working and understanding what education means to different people around the world, and now we have sort of found a model, at least in entrepreneurial education, that you can learn more about entrepreneurship, learn more about startup, but from people not in your comfort zone, not in your country. Because sometimes you read these words on a presentation, get out of a comfort zone, but you're in the same city and you just get out and go to your house. But what we're trying to do is get people, like as you saw, we have people from South Africa and they're in India and learning about entrepreneurship here. So that's sort of the purpose.
And you're making a lot of news as well, because I do my research, but that's secondary. My question is, so that's great. So your family has been your backbone, as you mentioned, because they were very supportive of you. So how has this turned out for you? Because I think for a lot of people, family is also a constraint when it comes to talk about education. I mean, there's this barrier in the head that you have to study and you have to get a job. So there's this hierarchical structure that goes through. So what would you want to tell people if they want to break out of it?
Yeah, so I think what's important to know is what your context is. I think for a lot of people, when you're the first one going to college, the context is totally different. Education is very important. I come from a family where they are educated. You know, they were educated and they understood that education is not everything. I think once you have it, you'll realize how important it is. But once you don't have it, you want your kids to do it. So I think that's why I always tell everyone that I work with is that I'm very privileged. I come from a privileged family where I got a chance to choose. That if you don't want to study further, if you don't want a job, you can do this, but do not ask for money. You can do it, you can have a choice, but at least you can come back to a house where there'll be a roof. So I think that's, sometimes we don't understand that even that is a privilege in a country like India. So I think, yes, my family has been the biggest support, and also I think they sometimes realize that what they learned was so much beyond what they learned in college or in this school. I think so. I was lucky to have that. I think a lot of people, not only in India but around the world, don't have that. Is that understanding with their family that, you know, in the end, the important part is learning and not education. If education is not getting to learn, what's the point?
And then how long has it been that you've been doing, Startup Safari?
So Startup Safari, we started in 2015. But I've been working in the entrepreneurial design space for 7 years, where I've been working with universities, with accelerators, with different people to understand what makes an entrepreneur successful. So I've researched on around 200 entrepreneurs around the world. I've interviewed the likes of Richard Branson to someone who's local to understand what happened in their childhood that made them, is it taught, the question is it taught, or it could be, you're born with. So a lot of that, 7 years of research, 7 years of experience has gone into startups.
So you're actually breaking the stigma that sometimes we have, that leaders are born, not made. And I think that's brilliant. You're probably creating entrepreneurs, which is the need of the hour today. And it's great that you understood it 7 years ago. Now that's a big time. And now I understand why your website looks so amazing and how you're working so well. That research is paying off, isn't it? So what would be a tip or advice that you would want to give to the people who wish to become entrepreneurs? Not what you're doing, that's like really great. But even if they want to get into the industry, what were the challenges you faced?
I think my tip or my advice would be to, first of all, to understand why you want to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
You want to be an entrepreneur because you have a need, like I had. Like I had this dying need of changing something. I didn't know how I was going to do it. So as I said, it took me 6 or 7 years to figure out how I'm going to do it. But I always had that unhappiness, like, this is not education. There's so much more to success. For example, I was good at memorizing stuff, and that's why I'm deemed a success in my school and college. But there were my friends who I thought were smarter than me, but just because they couldn't memorize, it was because they were more nervous. Their marks were less, and there's a lot of these points. I think one is understanding why you want to be an entrepreneur. Is it something that you're unhappy about? Second is you want to be rich. That's a lot of people's motivation. But
and I think it's fair enough.
It's fair, but I think it won't get you far enough. If you just start with the motivation of being rich, it's always a byproduct.
I'd like to add, and that's why a lot of startups, those who come up, the reason of cash burnout comes into play. So they want a lot of money and then they spend it because that's the reason. I think that's a brilliant advice.
Yeah, so I think that's very important, is the money part. I think, but the crux of it is, and I call it passion to profit. How can you turn your passion, that's something you really believe in, but make it sustainable? How can you, and that's the profit part. And I think it's everyone's trying to solve a need. It could be a need of providing luxury. So like iPhone is a luxury, but it is a need, right? It's not solving any world problems, but at least it's a successful model because of that. Or it could be an Uber, for example. It's solving a problem point, or Ola, for example. So you need to know why you're doing it. That's very, very important. And once you get that answers, then you need to figure out how to actually go about it. You can't just say, I'm not going to take a job, but I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I think I always actually tell people to take a job. I think you need to first understand, get into the corporate sector, and be unhappy about it, and you'll be a more successful entrepreneur than you just say after graduating, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Because a lot of times you don't even know what you want to do.
Or just get a very supportive household. I mean,
yes,
if that works out there. So it is beautiful to know however your story has turned out for you, and I think it's inspiring and it's opening our minds. So now, what do you do? A person of your caliber and talent, when you have to stress out and enjoy, what do you need to get high on?
So I think I need to get high on traveling. So my two passions are traveling and entrepreneurship.
Perfect. So this was a conversation, very productive and a different one, with Mr. Apoorv, who is actually changing the entire world, not just our country, inspiring many with his hard work, dedication, passion, and of course, his family is a backbone. So you need to make sure you tell your parents what your dreams are, get a clarity as he advised, and then move forward with them. Meanwhile, keep subscribing to our channel and also check out their website.